Alright, so if you've clicked on this video, you're probably looking for the perfect crispy chickeny bite, but you probably want to eat it quickly. Well, look no further because you are most definitely in the right place. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode here at Timeout Kitchen. Today we'll be making the always popular and always delicious chicken tenders, or as your child self might call them, chicken fingers. Now this version is a crispy double breaded version that goes perfectly with our hot honey topping and is ready to go in less than 1 hour. So let's not waste any time and let's get to the ingredients. And naturally, the best place to start is with the chicken tenders, so go ahead and grab yourself as many chicken tenders as you like. In this case, well, this many chicken tenders. I don't know how much this is. It's about 2 pounds, let's say, of chicken tenders, and I will be cooking all of them. Next, you want to grab 2 to 3 cups of flour, depending on how many chicken tenders you have, but just enough to basically cover everything up. For another layer of crispiness, we're going to add 1 cup of cornstarch. Now, once we double bread this, you'll really notice that it has lots of flaky layers, guys, and this is exactly what you're going to need. And to season that cornstarch and flour mixture, you're going to need all of the ingredients you see here. This will include 1 tablespoon of salt. In this case, I'm using Himalayan salt, but it really doesn't matter. You'll also want 1 tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper, 1 tablespoon of cayenne powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, and 1 tablespoon of chipotle powder. You'll also notice this larger pile that is our 2 tablespoons of paprika. In this case, I'm using some smoked paprika, but any paprika you have will do just fine. And this wonderful spice mixture is going to season the hell out of our flour mixture. So with the dry ingredients covered, let's move on to our wet ingredients. And naturally, we're going to start with some eggs. So go ahead and grab yourself 4 to 6 eggs, depending on how many chicken tenders you plan on making. Next, you want to grab yourself a cup of milk, but ideally, if you have it, some buttermilk would be the best choice, or some half and half if you have it laying around. Now, I didn't have any buttermilk, so I am using a cup of 2% milk, and this will work just fine. And just like our dry ingredients, we're going to season our wet ingredients as well with a slightly different mixture. This mixture is going to include 1 tablespoon each of sea salt, of cayenne powder, of smoked paprika, and some freshly ground black pepper. Again, feel free to add anything you like here. It's really up to you, but this is the seasoning I went with. You could add some ancho powder or some chipotle powder depending what you like, but this was a nice kind of clean palette that I really wanted to use. Up next is going to be a half a cup to a cup of your favorite hot sauce. It could be Frank's, it could be Nando's, it doesn't matter, make your own, whatever you like. Just grab a half a cup to a cup and add it to your wet mixture. Finally, you're going to need to grab yourself a 1/4 cup to a half a cup of vinegar. Now, ideally you would use some pickle juice because it has a bit more complexity of flavor. I didn't have any pickle juice kicking around, so I am using about a half a cup of white vinegar. So with our wet ingredients covered, let's cover the last few items. And I say last, but this is perhaps the most important, is some hot honey, and really you can use as much as you want. You could also make your own with some cayenne pepper and some honey, and you can just mix that together, microwave it until it's melted, and you'll have a pretty good hot honey sauce. You'll also need some oil for frying. In this case, I've got some canola oil, but you can really use any high smoke point oil that you have kicking around. This one's cheap, available, and I highly recommend it. And there you go, that's all the ingredients you're going to need to make these amazingly crispy, flavor-filled, and spicily glazed chicken tenders in less than 1 hour. Oh, and that reminds me, speaking of things that are spicily glazed and take less than an hour, B-roll. Alright, so go ahead and wipe the drool off your face because we actually have to go ahead and make these chicken tenders. And the best place to start is by prepping our wet ingredients. So go ahead and grab yourself a casserole, and then go ahead and grab your eggs and crack them into the casserole. Now you can of course do this with 2 hands or 1 hand if you want to be fancy, but basically just don't leave any eggshells in your mixture. With all your eggs in the dish, go ahead and add your cup of hot sauce. You don't have to do it this slow or dramatically, but it kind of looks cool. Next up is your cup of milk, or ideally a buttermilk if you have it, but go ahead and incorporate that into our wet mixture as well before adding our spice mixture. Now this will add a ton of flavor of course, but also give it a nice color. So go ahead and dump that in and then reach for your whisk because it is time to mix all this together. So as you admire your whisk, have that nagging feeling creep up that you've forgotten something, and that's because you have, and that would be our vinegar. So go ahead and get that and dump that in, and then proceed to mix everything together. Now there isn't a special technique here, just try not to make a mess. Once your mixture is thoroughly, well, mixed, it should look something like this. The main thing you're looking for here is that your eggs are all broken down and there aren't any big chunks. With that done, go ahead and grab your chicken tenders because we're going to let this sit in this egg mixture for about 20 or 30 minutes. Now again, this is where that vinegar or the pickle juice and some buttermilk are going to go a long way because it's going to give it a nice little flavor and help tenderize our chicken. In any case, make sure each piece of chicken is thoroughly coated before moving this off to the side. And don't worry, in 20 or 30 minutes you won't get bored, we've got plenty of other things to do. So go ahead and grab yourself a clean dish and then begin to put in your 2 or 3 cups of flour. Again, it depends how many chicken tenders you're going to do, but in this case I'm using 3 cups of flour. Now some folks have asked me if you can use whole wheat flour. I suppose you could, but honestly white flour is the way to go here. To that you're going to add your 1 cup of cornstarch, followed by all of those wonderful spices. Now again, this is going to be the main driver of flavor within our chicken, so make sure that you incorporate this properly. And you'll do that by using this wonderful tool, fork, I don't know, you could use a whisk, but just go ahead and mix this all together. Once you're done mixing, the flour should have a reddish pink color to it, and that's all you really need to do. So go ahead and move this to the side because it's time to grab our chicken. After a quick 20 to 30 minute marinade, it's time to drain about half of our liquid, because this is going to be our egg wash that's going to help with our double breading. So in a large bowl, go ahead and dump about half of that liquid, and then just move this off to the side because it's time to set up our workstation. So bring your marinated chicken, your well-seasoned flour, and your bowl of egg wash. And from here, it's breading time, so go ahead and grab your chicken strips and just throw those into the flour. Then you want to cover every inch of these chicken tenders with some flour, and I do actually recommend that you press down on the chicken with the flour. It really gets it into all the crevices and gives you a much drier piece of chicken. With your chicken flour, go ahead and dip that into your egg wash, making sure that you remove some of the excess liquid on the side of the bowl before dunking it back into our flour. Again, this is the double flouring that we want. You could also have a separate station with panko crumbs if you want, but I do like this more traditional method. And there you go, our first piece of chicken is done, just 20 more to go. So let's just go ahead and speed this process up a little bit. You can see, guys, we're going to repeat the process over and over again until all of our chicken is done. This should only take you about 10 minutes or so to do. It's pretty quick, just make sure each piece is thoroughly coated. With that done, you should have a mountain of chicken tenders ready for the fryer. And don't be afraid to make a couple extras because these bad boys go great in sandwiches or wraps the next day. Anyways, enough fantasizing, let's get to our fryer, which is just a pot filled with about 2 or 3 cups of canola oil. Now this oil is heated up to about 350 to 375 degrees. Once your oil has come up to temp, go ahead and drop in your chicken. Now you'll notice that I'm not overcrowding the pan. This is to keep the oil hot and make sure that nothing is sticking or burning. So after about 5 or 6 minutes, you should have some deeply dark, delicious chicken that looks just like this. Go ahead and shake off the excess oil and put this on a cooling rack or some paper towel. Now I'm not going to bore you with the cooking process. Needless to say, we cooked a lot of chicken and this is what it all looks like. Now you'll notice I have a rack with paper towel underneath. This is the best way for this to crisp up, and if you don't believe me, just listen. Yeah, it's that crispy, and we still have a couple other things to do, so let's get to it. That is going to be to add our hot honey. So in a ramekin or small bowl, go ahead and add as much or as little hot honey as you'd like. Now it's a bit viscous, so we're going to go ahead and microwave this for 30 to 45 seconds until it's a little bit looser. And then we're going to spread it over this delicious chicken, which again, guys, you could eat just like this, but that would defeat the point. So go ahead and grab yourself a little brush and brush over your hot honey all over this chicken. Now again, you could simply just dip all of your chicken in there, but I want to do this because it's going to look nicer, it's going to coat it evenly, and it's going to keep our chicken more flavorful. I mean, look at that. It's hot honey, it's chicken, what's not to like? Once both sides of your chicken are thoroughly coated in hot honey, go ahead and hit this with a bit of sea salt. This is going to just add a little bit more seasoning and really help balance out those flavors. So with our chicken tenders crisp, spicy, and salty, it is time to plate. So go ahead and grab yourself a plate and begin to layer these on high. Now there's no specific order here, guys. You can see the beautiful dark color, the nice glaze, and a little bit more honey is going to help us out here because we want a nice thick coating of this honey. So we're just going to use some of those extras and make it look all pretty. Oh, and speaking of pretty, we're going to add a little bit of this chopped parsley just for a hit of green color. Look at us being all professional and whatnot. And there you go, guys. There are hot honey chicken tenders done. Look at the amazing crunch that we have. This is so amazing, so easy, and looks absolutely delicious. And I can prove they're delicious because, I mean, look at this. Look at the glaze, look at the crust. You can tell how crispy they are. And look at the cross section here, guys. Just tear this in half. Beautifully moist chicken, and yeah, it's good. It's really just good. I'm gonna eat this entire plate, there's absolutely no question. These are gonna be amazing in a wrap tomorrow as well. I highly recommend you guys try out this recipe. That spice, that crunch, it's just really hard to beat. Unless you also have a beer, which we do, so go ahead and enjoy that as well. Because let's be honest, you earned it. And because I can't resist torturing you, here is another quick cross-section pull of our chicken. You can see how tender it is, that crust is nice and crisp, and we have a wonderful heat and sweetness coming from the honey. There you go, now you can make yourself a wonderful dish of hot honey chicken tenders, all on your own at home. So with that said, before I demolish these guys, I want to say thanks so much for watching until the end of this video, and as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.